All you long-term viewers are aware that what I'm doing is in my videos is I'm investigating. I'm investigating what it is to be a human being. And so if some of you are not too interested in religion, ask yourselves, are you interested in life, in philosophy, in human psychology, in the humanisms that have been around with us forever? Of course, religion has been with human being ever since the day we became relatively sophisticated. And all we need to do is look over the globe and take a look at the myths that each culture has invented, passed on, and embroiled into their lives. And of course, we're all familiar with Roman mythology and Greek mythology and Nordic mythology, and whatever country you come from, you'll have your mythology, which you'll all be familiar with. But what most people are not familiar with, that this stuff pertains to the deepest realm of what it is to be a human being. The worst thing, the last thing, the most ridiculous, silliest thing we should ever do is discount these myths as nonsense, because they most certainly weren't nonsense. What they were illustrations in relation to human psyche, projected back onto the world from minds that understood certain facets of what it is to be a human being, but didn't understand many others. And so, via science, we do now have a grasp on lots of the things that the ancients never had. For instance, let's just say in relation to our so-called solar system and the so-called world being round and all the planets, spinning around the sun and those sort of things. They can all be refuted, people, and there's many people, flat earthers, who can absolutely refute the round earth hypothesis, because when you look into that stuff, it really does have value. And all the experiments that you can carry out to seek if the world is round or flat, they will tell you that the world is flat. And so it is very bizarre. Nobody should be discounting what I say, because I've looked into it long and hard. And one thing that you should be aware of, there isn't a single photograph of the world in its entirety. And that thing you see out of that window in one of the Apollo missions is a fabrication. And if you look into that, you'll discover that they accept this as a fabrication. They just said, well, we just wanted to give something to the people to show them some sort of idea, but yeah, it is the fabrication. And so why aren't there any real photos of the Earth as a ball, in its entirety? How many times have shuttles and spacecraft gone up out of Earth's atmosphere onto the moon and all that sort of thing? Well, why can't we have, in this day and age, complete photos of the Earth without them being built up and invented? You see, what we've got is, apparently, we've got photos of the Earth which are built up by strips which have been photographed via satellites going round the Earth. And there's all different sorts of stuff like this, and there's reasons as to why we shouldn't necessarily believe that the Earth is round and all the rest of it. Because there's so many other hypotheses which tell us, well, there is no solar system, there is no Earth, there is no sun, and all these sort of things. Well, what do you mean? Well, look into the simulation hypothesis, look into the hologram hypothesis, look into the many worlds hypothesis. How could there feasibly be trillions, gazillions, an unimaginable number of different worlds? If my phone rings now and I answer the phone, then I go into another world, and there's another whole world created. That's what some very respected scientists are asking us to believe. or at least consider. So what I'm saying here is, people, this thing is about belief, and what I'm going to be speaking about now is along the lines of what I've been speaking about a long time, and I give a lot of time to this in my book. Belief, faith, knowledge, knowing. I ask, how much do we actually know? What do you know? What can you categorically say that you know about this world? Because when you do say that you know something about the world, well, of course, the next question is, how do you know that? And what does it mean to know that? And then we get into very, very deep, esoteric, philosophical realms. And there are as many answers as there are questions. In actual fact, of course, there's more questions than there are answers. But there's a whole myriad of answers which most people don't want to pay mind to. But what I'm saying here in this video then, some of you will know that I'm reading the Second Coming of Christ. And the Second Coming of Christ is about Paramahansa Yogananda speaking about all the things that Jesus is supposed to have said and done in the New Testament, from beginning to the end. That's why this book consists of 1,500 pages. And it's an investigation into the feasibility and the reality and the perception, belief, and all these sort of things in relating to that. One of the things I was reading is about the whole Jesus walking on water thing. Now, I will read at some stage to you what it says exactly in the New Testament about Jesus walking on water. And doubtless it says it in Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, all in a different variety of way. So we have to take a general sort of idea of what was being spoken about there. But one thing which they all are going to say is that there was a great tempest on that day. There was a great storm where everybody was afraid. And Jesus wasn't with these fishermen on this particular day because he'd left them at another place. So they were out on the boat, and then a storm came about, and the storm was raging, and they were all in fear of their lives. Now, let us get into that realm, shall we? Let us put ourselves into that situation. Otherwise, we will never be able to get to the bottom of what is being said here. For those of you that have been out onto the ocean, in small or large craft, in a tempest or in a great storm, you'll have some idea of what is going on here. Now, some of you would have crossed the channel or large expanses of ocean in huge ships, and you will see the magnitude of these waves rising up and down. And they are so huge that the whole bloody ship is going up and down, and there's some momentum. And you go and stand on the front of the vessel, it's going up, and it seems to be lurching up 100 feet into the air, and then it's coming back down. These waves and swell are huge. Now, for those of you that have been out in smaller craft, you will know that some of these waves can very easily get to 30 feet high. I've been out in storms where there has been, let's say, 15-foot waves. Now, 15 foot is from here up to the top of that broken tree there. So you've got the bottom of the wave there, and then you've got the top of the wave there, and your boat is coming up and down and smashing down, and the wind is howling, the water is splashing on your face like you're being slapped in the face by a sledgehammer. You're terrified for your life because you don't know when the boat's going to get capsized. It's horrendous, it's horrific. Now, this is the sort of storm which Peter and the varying fishermen and apostles were speaking about the day they saw Jesus walking on the water. Now, they were saying that there was a great storm and great tempest, and they were all in fear for their lives. And then what should happen? They see Jesus, are you walking out there on the water? Well, first and foremost, let's have a look what's actually going on there. If Jesus were walking on the water, how was he walking on the water? in what sort of a way? Because if the waves are rising, even if it's only a 10-foot swell and the wind is howling and you can't hear a goddamn thing, the sails on the ship are flapping and you can't hear nothing, it's just a great howl and a hiss, and then so they see what the fuck, all the water splashed in the face. Is that rubbing their eyes? Is that Jesus? Is that you, Lord? Is that you, Lord? They cry out. And then Jesus says, "It is I, fear not, come." And reaches out his hand for Peter, and then Peter, oh fuck, he steps off the boat, to go and walk with Jesus. But then he starts to fall and he starts to sink. And then Jesus says to him, he grabs hold of his hand and says, "Oh, ye of little faith." So Peter is on the boat then. Wow, up and down. Jesus is on the top of a wave. He's going down, he's out of sight. Then he's coming up again. Then there you can see him again. Then he's going back down again. Then a huge wave is smashing over and soaking Jesus. His hair's all in his face and over his eyes and he can't see. And he's rubbing his eyes and saying, Peter, come on. Really? And Peter's going, okay, Lord. Okay. Steps off the boat. You've all been to these fairground things where the kids step on these things. It's going up and down, and you've got to try and judge how you're going to step on a high or a hollow, right? And most of the time we get it wrong, and then it's kind of, you'll go like this. Well, that's what the ocean's going to be like. So anyone walking on that water, if they're walking on the water, then they're going to be on the top of it, and it's going to be going up and down and all this stuff. If he's just walking in thin air, that's another thing. That's a whole nother story. Because if it was like, Jesus was walking in thin air, he was levitating like an Hindu guru, he was floating, okay, fine. We don't need to go into the details of this, but because it is clearly stated that he was in actual fact walking on the water, then we have to reason with that, don't we? We have to go, look, if we're going to believe that, if we're going to take it remotely serious as a thing that happened, like most Christians do, and this is why I'm speaking like this, because most Christians will say that Jesus actually did walk on water, he's a miracle, he's God, and that's why. But they wouldn't have a single clue or ever build a scenario of how that actually happened and what that would mean to be in a storm and walking on the water and coming up and down and being soaking wet and freezing cold and all this sort of stuff. So anyway, and Peter goes with him, and then somehow they end up back on the fucking boat. This isn't clear, this isn't said. How did they get back on the fucking boat? The boat's side to side and it's up and down. It must be really fucking hard. Impossible in actual fact, but they did it anyway because it was God's will. But if we have a look at, okay, let's assume now, as intelligent people, that was just an illustration or a parable that is guiding us to think about something else. What could that be? Well, when Jesus was doing that miracle, and Jesus says, come, and then, Peter tentatively goes out, but then he loses his balls, he loses his faith, and he falls in the water. Well, that illustration there clearly states to me is that Jesus is always saying to his disciples, anything that I can do, you can do more. And, we're all children of God, and we all have the Christos within us, and, we all have God consciousness, and so we're all equal in that. And the things we can do, if only you have faith, if only you believe. And then there's also illustrations which speak about if you have faith and if you have belief, then you can move that mountain, you can throw it into the ocean. If you really, really have faith, you can say, mountain, move, and throw it into the ocean over there, and that mountain will move and be in the ocean. Well, I think that's gone a little bit too far, to be frank, but if we look at the illustration, what it's saying is that if you believe in yourself, if you have faith in your own ability, then you can, in actual fact, move metaphorical mountains. Now, we've seen evidence of this in anybody that's made something of themselves, whether it's a movie star, pop star, anything else. They've believed in themselves, they've believed in their purpose, they have had the tenacity, they've dug in, and against all odds they've succeeded. Why? Because they have been in the greatest of belief in their ability. And so this is what Jesus is saying to people, and the reason why he's saying it is because this world is malleable. This world is created via our imagination, via our belief. Now, for instance, I climbed the mountain on one occasion, and I climbed it because I believed I could. And initially I truly wanted to do it. Look at these fellas there. See, just one there and then one there. They're super chilling out, right? Super chilling out, those guys. You're super chilling out, you are, aren't you, dude? Hey? Yeah, look how beautiful you are. Basking in the sun. That's a life. Now, yeah, I climbed this mountain because I believed I could. And I've created businesses because I believed I could. And many people will tell me, oh, it's not going to work, or you've not got what it takes, or, the economy isn't going to stand for that. And I'm like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'm giving the bird to everybody. And there were very, very difficult times, going through economic crashes and all the rest. But I stood by my belief. And in the end, I created a very quality and sound business. And so I showed myself that via my belief, I created my own reality. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what Jesus is saying. It's nothing to do with silly miracles and parting fucking oceans and all this sort of thing. People have just wrote crazy stories like that to grab people's attention. But the fact of it is, if people didn't believe that they could get to the moon, then they wouldn't. Whether they ever had is another story. But let's just assume that they did. It's all because they believed they could. If people didn't believe that they could create flying machines, then they wouldn't. But because they could believe it, because they could imagine it, they brought it into this reality, because this reality is malleable. And everything is created out of the word, out of vibration. And so when we have an idea, well, what do we do with the idea? We write it down or we speak it. When we write things down and when we speak it, we bring it into the sort of like a purgatory ground, the no man's land of creation. And then other entities of consciousness have to get hold of that. They have to read it, and then they have to manufacture what it actually says there. Now, if a great genius has an idea in their mind of how a rocket would work, they'll write down all the math as to how that works, and then the engineers would have to have a look at the practicality of that. So then the engineers would have to build something in relation to the math, with the thrust and the weight of it, and all these different sorts of scientific things which are taken into consideration. By the time they've applied their belief system that they could do it, then what happens? Eventually something is created. Where did all these things come from? They came out of human belief, people. And so when Jesus says that truly, if you believe, then you can move mountains, well, it's a metaphor for if you truly believe, then you can do many, many things in this life. And if, for instance, you have some sort of adherence or a belief that you can find some answers within this paradigm, then like me, you will keep searching, seeking, asking, and then incrementally you will be given. You will create those things, that opportunity within this. This is the blank canvas. We're all projecting or painting onto a blank canvas. And if you tell yourself you can't, then you won't. If you tell yourself you can, then you will. And that's how this thing works. It isn't in any specific way, and there isn't anything which is absolutely categorically real or anything like that. It's all real enough, and it's all premised on the belief that is projected onto it. And this then is where egregores come from. These entities which come out of collective human focused attention, because our attention, particularly when it's focused, is very, very powerful. And that's why we go into a meditation and maybe we think about one specific thing. And the law of attraction, we think about one specific thing and we go through our mind's eye of how we're going to achieve that and what it's going to look like and feel like when we do it. And what we are doing then, we are creating within our imagination the reality. And then, if we think long and hard enough about that, we will actually then paint it onto the canvas of our projected world. And so it's a wonderful thing. So when Jesus is saying, come Peter, believe in me, or believe in yourself, basically, believe that you can walk on water like me. If you believe in me, a person that can walk on water, then you may believe that you can do it also. After all, I'm like you, and all that I can do, you can do better. That's what he's been telling everybody all the time. But they need to believe. They need to believe themselves. Now, if somebody believes that they could beat, let's say, Mike Tyson in his heyday, then they're within half a chance of being able to do it. If they went into the ring and they just didn't believe that they could do it, they've lost before they even stepped into the ring. We can all get our heads around that logic, can't we? And so now, picture this. What happens is when we have a belief about something. For instance, myself, I believed that I was going to have a haulage business, and I believed that I could acquire all the tools that I needed to do that, i.e. vans and lorries and premises and all that. And what I always used to do, I always used to write it down. Writing things down is very, very powerful, because you're in one of the preliminary stages to building it into reality. And then the more people you show that, the more opportunity it is to bring it into reality. Let's just take this scenario, for instance. If you write down a business plan and you want to borrow money, you present that to your bank manager. Your bank manager will look at how feasible he thinks that is, because he's trained into assessing business plans and seeing the viability of them. And if you've got enough data which says that there's quite a reasonable chance that you are going to succeed premised on that, he will then loan you X amount of money. Then you can buy the vehicles and the premises, and then you can be on your way. So look what's happened. Your belief turned into a reality, because first and foremost you wrote it down, then you spoke it, and then you conveyed it to another human being who also believed in you. They shared your belief. So now your belief and the bank manager's belief is all that is needed to buy the goods, because all he needs to do is to give you zeros and ones in your account. And you believe that those zeros and ones are money, and as long as everybody else believes that the money has value and it's not just paper, then you can go and buy vehicles and everything. Belief. You see where I'm coming from, people? It's all belief. And so then one day when you find yourself driving around in the posh car, living in a nice house with loads of money in the bank, like I did, I look at myself and I go, well, how did I do this? I did it entirely through my belief initially, and then my human energy, life force, focused on it. Focus. I was focusing my life force energy onto my business every hour of the day. And that's what it takes, you see, because when you put that amount of focus into something, it cannot fail. It simply cannot fail. It's only when you start to deviate, when your thoughts are not strong enough, when you start to go into other realms and you lose focus on a particular thing. If you was fighting Mike Tyson and you lost focus for half a second, you'd get knocked out, wouldn't you? So, are you getting some of this, people? Are you grokking that all this stuff in the Bible is just human psychology, and it's just designed to awaken the spirit within us? It is to awaken us to this non-reality. At least a pliable reality. We are in a pliable reality, and our thoughts will build it. And so my thoughts have built this body and this strength and this character, and my thoughts have taken me around the world because I had an idea about something, and then my energy and my focus was directed to it, and the two together became very, very powerful. And so then, against all other people on the planet that maybe didn't want me to do it, some of you will be aware that I got into the United States of America during COVID, and they told the whole world that nobody is getting into our country unless you are a member of the armed forces or an NGO or you're a diplomat, and there was a very few exceptions. But I didn't listen to that because I believed in myself. I believed in my own sovereignty, and I believed that my sovereignty was more powerful than the American government. And you know what happened? I got into the United States of America, and they never told me why. They never even acknowledged anything. They just let me go through with the documents that I presented to them, because I told them that I am coming in because I'm exempt from your bullshit. So I got a letter of exemption from my doctor, and I just presented that to them. And they cannot investigate your medical record. They cannot deny you whatever mental or physical illnesses that you say you have, which enable you to step outside of taking these things, you see, or wearing these things. And so that's because we're sovereign beings, people. So I relied on my sovereignty, and I believed in my sovereignty, and my sovereignty then got me into the gates of the most powerfulest country on the planet when they didn't want any of us to do it. There's something in that, people. There's something very, very powerful in that, and you have to pay attention to what I'm saying here. So this is very much like if you believe and you say to that mountain will move. Now, I believed, and many people told me that I wasn't going to get in, because you're dealing with the United States of America, the most powerful country on the planet. Who do you think you are? You're just full of ego, you are, and you're stupid, and I'm just going to enjoy your failure. Well, those who desirous to see my failure, of course they were all eating their own hats, and they seriously had to reckon with the power of the awakened brave, with the power of a person who believes in the power of his own mind and his own thoughts and his own desires. So this is what it's all about in these Bibles. And when Jesus says, "Come, Peter, come and walk on the water with me," it's just a fucking metaphor, because we were exactly as powerful as Jesus. We could heal people with our hands and with our minds, because that is possible. We can read that that's possible. We can listen to people speaking about it every day of our fucking lives if we go on YouTube. You know, gurus and people who do Reiki, and even people like Joe Dispenza have got a miracle story about he rebuilt himself, he rebuilt his spine. Doctors told him he'd never walk again, but he lied in bed every single day for 6 months, and he mentally built back his spine, and then miraculously he could walk again and live a very normal life. And doctors go, "What the fuck?" Things like that happen, people. So we can, in actual fact, move mountains. Now then, you're not getting this anywhere on the fucking planet, are you? You're not getting it. You're not getting it. You're not getting someone who gives you so many illustrations, who shows you so many portals, so many avenues to put it all together. So it gives the opportunity of most people being able to grasp what I'm saying. I mean, you do get people like Joe Dispenza, who's got his classes and his seminars and everything, and he's telling you one facet of the power of the mind, but he isn't giving you any instantiations other than his own, you know, his own miraculous story. And so we have to have our own belief. We have to have the certain power It is a real exceptional power to have a personal belief. Many people don't have it. They haven't been conditioned into believing in themselves. They've been conditioned into believing in the state or into the school or into the university and into the police force, and they've been conditioned into thinking that they've got no power and only Jesus could walk on water and all these different sort of things. But, there are supposedly gurus that can levitate and be in two places at once and lots of different things like this. There are stories of all different sorts of phenomena that take place that we can't account for. I've been reciting to you things that I've seen and felt and experienced. They're all very, very bizarre. So I know that this world is very bizarre, and I absolutely know that whenever I've wanted to do anything in my life, I have done it. When I told myself when I was in England that I'm going to go to Australia and I'm going to work in the fucking gold mines. Well, what happened? Lo and behold, I was working in the gold mines. Then I tell myself that I'm going to get into America. I got into America. Then I tell myself that I'm going to be a member of the full contact British karate team. Why? Because I believe in me. And what happened? I was. Many other things. I've travelled around the world and done all different sorts of things because I had thoughts. Sometimes I wrote them down. Sometimes I passed them on to people. And I made them become a reality. And if you get people believing in you, then you too will make things a reality. Now, what have I done in recent times? I've got you believing in my book. Because you want to believe in yourselves. You see a person that really believes in himself and has achieved lots of things and has had very bizarre experiences. And I'm telling you that you can do it all also if you follow a certain format. And so, if I keep on at this, of course the book sales will go up and up and up, and then they'll get in the right hands, and then more and more people will start to believe in what I'm saying, and then people will start talking about my book and my beliefs and how I did this and how I did that. And before I know it, I've got seminars and all that sort of thing going on like other gurus. Whether that's my bag, I've got no idea. I don't think so, but it may be. And so I'll just leave that open to the cosmos, because the cosmos knows what it's doing.